it's time to heal and feel, be real. You just gotta take your time, unwind and chill. Cause now it's time to love yourself. Build emotional and mental health. Cause Black woman, it's time to heal and feel, be real.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Black Women Healing Podcast. And today we have a special guest. And I think it's going to be really good to get to the nitty-gritty of our mental wellness a little bit more. So today we have Dr. Ingrid Waldron. Uh, she is the Hope Chair in Peace and Health at Midcaster University, where she researches the health impacts of racism, environmental injustice, and climate change in Black, Indigenous, and other racialized communities. She authored There's Something in the Water, which was adapted into a 2020 Netflix documentary co-produced with Elliot Page. Waldron founded the Enrich Project and played a key role in developing Bill C-226, Canada's first environmental justice law. Wow. Her latest book, From the Enlightenment to Black Lives Matter, explores racial trauma in Black communities across Canada, the US, and the UK. Thank you so much for being here. Wow. Oh,
Having me.
you've been doing
Thanks.
work. Um, but so the this or that segment. So now that we know who's with us today, we have Dr. Ingrid Waldron. We're gonna do our this or that just to get acclimated and have a little fun. So this or that. So I want to say this or that. Let's see, what are some topics going on right now? Um, well, I mean, based off your bio, we'll use that. So if you had to choose between, you only could pick one streaming service. If you had to choose Netflix or Amazon Prime,
Hmm.
which one would you choose?
Well, I've only ever had Netflix. So I don't have Disney and what's the other ones? And I don't have Amazon Prime. So I'm only familiar with Netflix. So I think I would stick with that. Once again, I don't know Amazon Prime, but I love what Netflix has in terms of documentaries. I love documentaries and
Mhm.
I love the selection that they offer.
Okay. I'm gonna pick neither. I'm a Hulu person, so
Oh,
You
Hulu.
have to.
I'm not into neither Netflix or Amazon Prime. I feel like Amazon Prime can be a little chaotic. Sometimes you'll pick something and not realize you purchased something that was $50. And with
Oh my
Netflix,
gosh.
like I watch just girlfriends on there. I don't really watch
Yeah.
like new stuff, and it's something about the platform that I don't really like. So I'm more into Hulu. So
Is
yeah.
Hulu a streaming service too?
It is. So it's now married to I think Discovery, Disney,
Ah,
ESPN, like it has all of those things on there.
okay.
Sometimes you'll come across like small creators, which you can get on Amazon Prime too, but again, you might click something and not realize that you purchased it. So
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like Hulu is just a safe bet. Sorry.
Ah,
I'm sorry. It's
Mm-mm.
okay. Yeah, no, I don't know. I've put Amazon Prime. I watch a lot of like shows that have like lots of seasons, like like RuPaul's Drag Race, Survivor, like those things are on
yeah.
Amazon Prime. And um I think I don't know if it's in because like you said, Myra, it's all these different levels of like, oh, if you have to purchase, HBO through of them or Stars or BET, it's
Ridiculous.
like all these upcharges, but
Mhm.
I think I tend to just go in there because I watch kind of the same like old stuff like over and over in some sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But Netflix though, now that you're talking about Dr. Ingrid, I never thought about like the documentary, like that is heavy
Yeah.
documentary over there. That
Mhm.
has me curious to look into now.
Yeah. I
Like
got
I
a
love, I
very
love, I love music documentaries, you know, I think they have really great quality music documentaries of pop stars that I like, but also serious documentaries, with respect to war or history. I
yeah.
think there's so much to choose from. So, and I find I don't watch episodic television anymore. I don't watch it on TV and I don't watch it on streaming channels for some reason. I just go straight to the documentaries and to the specials and to the concerts. Like Beyonce's concert was on Netflix, right? So going to pop concerts, watching those types of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have to do a shameless plug though. My daughter and my partner are all over Amazon Prime. I've gotten text messages like I was watching something and their commercial appeared. So they are in the latest Alexa commercial. So if you see it, please go ahead and tag the podcast and record it. It's super cute. I love that Amazon is on this inclusive wave. If you don't know, my partner is blind. And so the products that they've been putting out are very inclusive. And I love that they're showing Black folks. So I had to plug
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes. Okay, well, we are going to dive into our topic. So today, you all, we're going to be talking about how racism has shaped Black health and mental health care. And starting off with the first question, what drew you to investigating the history of racism in psychiatry?
My own experiences as a Black woman who felt that she was repeatedly being discriminated against in employment at a particular workplace that I was at, probably my mid 20s. I kept going up for promotions and I never got it, despite the fact that just with an undergraduate degree, I was the most educated person in that office. And I kept going for these promotions, and somebody always seemed to get it. And I think when you're Black, sometimes when those things happen, you start to blame yourself. You think, okay, what did I not have? What could I do better? And then at one point I said, it's not me. I think it's something else. I really feel it's racism. I feel I'm being overlooked because of race. Um, when I went up for one particular promotion and I didn't get that one, it was kind of the last straw for me. And I remember going home. I had my high heel shoes on and my work clothes on. It was a suit. And I basically threw myself down on my bed and I started to weep. I'd never done that before, but I was weeping because I was frustrated and so saddened by this continuous attempt by myself to get this promotion in that workplace and never getting it. And it was the last straw. And I didn't immediately think about doing further education. I had I got my undergraduate degree. But when I decided at some point to do my PhD, I started to hit upon literature, particularly from the United States and in England, on the impacts of racism on mental health. Because I was wondered with my experience with employment discrimination, were other people feeling the way I was? For me to be weeping in my bed, couldn't even take my high heel shoes off. I was so distraught and angry and frustrated, and I wondered, is it just me? Um, do other people feel the same way? Now, I had started my PhD on doing a different topic. I was looking at the underachievement of Black youth in the school system. And my PhD supervisor, that was his expertise. And as I was kind of looking through the literature on that topic, I started to come upon, as I said, literature from the United States and the UK about the impacts on emotional well-being, the impacts on mental health of discrimination and racism. And it resonated with me because I was thinking back to my experiences in employment and said to myself, there's a whole canon of literature on this topic, and it resonates with me. I understand it personally. And I think in order to kind of survive a PhD and to stick with it, a lot of people don't stick with it. You have to love what you have to have a real passion for the topic. It has to resonate with you. And this did. I went to my supervisor and I said, do you mind if I change my topic from the underachievement of Black students in the school system to the impact of racism on mental health? He was fine with that. And that opened me up to a whole bunch of interesting literature, Black feminist literature from the United States, you know, Kimberly Crenshaw and Patricia Hill Collins and all these people I knew nothing about. And they were also really great British feminists, from England, that I started to read. And they were talking about certainly intersectionality and the experiences of Black women, but also the impact of kind of trauma on Black women. And I said, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about. And I changed my PhD topic, and my PhD thesis then became about looking at the impact of racism on Black women from Africa, from different countries in Africa, the Caribbean, and Canadian-born Black women, learning from them about how different forms of systemic racism impacts them, and how they seek help for mental health problems, the different approaches that they use, whether it's prayer or going to church or relying on a social support network or going to a psychiatrist or a therapist or doing yoga or meditation. I found that to be fascinating to kind of learn from them. What are the different coping mechanisms you use when you are emotionally distraught or when you are struggling with mental health issues?
Yeah, so let's take a deeper dive. We're curious, how has everyday racism and historical oppression contributed to the psychological distress in Black communities?
Well, very much so. I mean, in terms of historical oppression, that's something that continues, even though it's historical, as you know. Historically, there were particular ideologies and perceptions, stereotypes that were constructed about Black people that, as you know, persist today. Black people as aggressive, as hostile, as needing to be contained or controlled, Black men as hostile and aggressive, the Black man to be feared, the Black woman as angry, the Black woman as strong. We've got all these problematic stereotypes that we internalize in many ways, and that also cause us to not seek help, because if we see ourselves as strong and resilient, then many of us, Black women particularly, think it's a sign of weakness for me to seek help. And that's particularly problematic because with Black people, we wait until late in the game when we're in a crisis situation to get help. And sometimes it's too late, particularly if we have entanglements with the police, as we see many Black men have when police is called to their home, and Black men often end up murdered at the hands of police because they've left those mental health issues at this later stage where they haven't gotten help all along. So I think the imagery of Blackness, of the Black body, is one of strength, which may seem on the surface to be positive, but in many ways isn't. To be hostile, we're seen as aggressive, we're seen as violent, we're seen as criminal. And we have certainly internalized that over the years. And those stereotypes, to me, persist. All you have to do is look at popular culture and the media. So I talk about some of these things in my book. I talk about particularly psychiatry has taken up those ideologies and perceptions. Psychiatrists are just people. They're just people just like anybody else. So when they make those diagnoses of Black people, I argue in the book that many of those diagnoses are steeped in racist stereotypes. You have to ask, why is it that Black men are overdiagnosed with schizophrenia and misdiagnosed? Why is it that Black women are underdiagnosed with depression? Is it difficult to see Black women as being depressed because Black women are supposed to be strong? Black women are supposed to be the pillars of the community. We're seen as mules of the world. We are Black superwomen, and therefore we are not afforded sensitivity, empathy, and care in the mental health and health systems. So, when Black women, I often say, when Black women declare, often, I'm a strong woman. We declare that very proudly. Yes, there's something great about being strong. I guess it's better than being weak. It's great to be resilient. But at the same time, are we stronger than anybody else, or are we posing? Because when we think we're so strong, then we don't ask for help. Then we don't think we need help. Then people don't think we need help. And then the care that we get is not to the same extent as other people receive care or empathy. So that's what's problematic about declaring ourselves as strong Black women. right?
Yes. And when you said, are we stronger than anyone else? Are we posing? That really resonated because it makes me think about, yes, most times we are posing, especially if you think about the black mom, right? Like who has the kids and is doing a million and one things, and you go to help and they're just like, I got it. And it's
Yeah.
like, you're
Yeah.
literally posing right there.
Mm.
That was just me. I used to go to my mother in the kitchen cooking. She would say, Ingrid, I want you to learn how to cook. And then as I start to cut the vegetables, she'll take it out of my hands, the knife, and she would continue to cut the vegetables. So I never really learned to cook very well,
Mm.
right? But she was like most Black women. The reason we do that is because the Black community has that expectation of us.
Mm.
Black men have that expectation that we're holding it down. And we know as Black women that we are not superhuman and that we struggle with all of those roles and expectations that the Black community and our partners put on us.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're stronger than anybody else. Black people are a resilient community, yes, based on what we've gone through. Resilience might be something different. We shouldn't expect to be resilient. We shouldn't expect to be treated in harmful ways and to be resilient. We shouldn't be treated harmfully at all. But strong, are we stronger than other people? I think it's a pose. I think we feel we have to be. I think it's internalized. And I think other people then decide that we don't need care.
Yeah.
So then we're isolated. Then we're alone in our struggle because we got to keep it together. We can't let anybody see us demonstrate anything that we think might be weak.
Yeah.
Got to hold it together,
Yeah. Totally
right?
agree. And I've been doing some research on how depression looks different in Black women. And
Oh,
I'm
that's nice.
curious. It's so like good to read it because I'm like, wow, I've been depressed and like not even realizing it. And what's coming to mind is like the Black woman who is like they're going for a PhD. And it's like you didn't even need a PhD or that doctorate. Or they're doing all these extra things around their house. They're now growing a garden. And it's like, why are you growing a garden? Are you even passionate about that? And it's like, no, I'm just doing all these things. Or they're doing the extra thing that looks really good to be doing, or that maybe we call self-care, when it's like, no, you're posing. I'm stealing the posing part. But I'm curious for you if there are other things that kind of come to mind where it's like, for a Black woman, that's actually maybe a sign of depression.
I think, I don't think Black women, I mean, the stereotype of Black women as angry is a myth, but I would also say has some truth to it.
Mm,
You can have a myth, but there's also, it comes from some truth. I think the way in which we show depression often is our frustration
Mhm.
and our anger, but not anger for no reason. That's how people would love to construct us.
right.
Anger at the injustices that we as Black women have to face based on gender, race, and class and income. And anger perhaps because of that expectation that others put on us. Anger because we're often not represented, anger because we're at the bottom of the totem pole, anger because we don't get our due. I mean, I think that kind of anger internalized is depression. We know that depression is anger turned inwards, right? So I think we have these real struggles, um, and that because we don't feel safe sharing our struggles or showing our depression because we think it's weak, it's expressed in anger. That's what I feel. I
Mhm.
feel our depression is expressed in anger in a way that maybe it isn't as much for so for everyone, if you look at the definition of depression, it is anger turned inward. But I think there are other communities that don't necessarily show that anger outwardly. But I think Black women often do. And it's interpreted as angry Black women for no reason, as domineering, angry, out of control Black women. But there's a real reason we are frustrated, right? Because of the injustices that we experience. And to me, that's the only way we feel comfortable showing our depression, letting people know that we are sad or troubled is to show it through anger.
Hmm.
Show it in other ways may be interpreted as she's weak. She can't handle it.
The tolerance, the build of tolerance of it all.
Yes.
But it's making me think of when sometimes then, when Black women, when we do show that, because people are not used to it, sometimes people then don't know what to do with it. It makes you in turn want to be even angrier because now I am showing
Yes.
this more the sadness piece of it. I'm crying.
Mhm.
I'm actually being vulnerable and now it's not being receptive
Yes. Yes.
recepted
Yeah.
or not shown with care and compassion as other folks and other
Yes.
women of other races would then, the world may stop, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think we need to do it more so it can be normalized and so that people can get used to like, yes, like I as a Black woman, I get to be sad. I get to be angry too though. And that's
Yes.
another thing. I get to have that, but like really us being able to just be shown up with care and
Yes.
compassion and like humanity, like and not a super woman, like you just said, like I'm not supernatural. I am still human.
What
So
you're expressing to me is that you feel that we are not heard,
yeah,
and you're tired of repeating things to people and having people trying to get people to understand you. We are not heard because
Exactly.
people have all these conceptions before they can get deep with us. They've got all these perceptions of us and barriers that they have to get through first in order to really understand our pain. I think, yeah, Black women have a lot of pain for a lot of reasons. We know that. Um, but when you express that depression and anger, nobody understands that it's depression. How could they? Because you're showing anger. So then they don't know what to do with you. So how are they going to provide you with care for depression if you are not expressing it as depression, but as anger?
Hmm.
What do they do with us then? Right? So
and I mean, I know it's a rhetorical question, but that's the piece of like everybody like being more mindful of the awareness of even how things look different because it's not going to change overnight that Black women are going to go from this anger outward expression of like this more sad accepted version. So it's this information like we're talking right now, like people listening and being able to share that and not even us just having to educate but other people educating like okay, if this Black woman is showing outward signs of anger, whatever that looks like, maybe something else is going on here. Maybe I shouldn't meet that with, oh, they're just angry and upset
right.
and are just
Yeah.
strong, and this is
Yeah.
how they're showing it. Um, but sorry, I know it was a rhetorical question. I was just like, this is how.
You know, the other way that we can show depression is through substance dependence. Not
Oh,
that Black women take drugs any more than anybody else. I don't know what the stats are on that. But, substance dependence, alcohol, issues with alcohol, all those are ways of masking depression internally, because Black women are so mortified about getting help and seeking help. And also, we get those messages from perhaps our mothers and our family, which is to be strong, buckle up, uh, and that's not for us. That's not for Black people counseling and psychiatry. That's for other people. Buckle up, be strong, stop complaining. That's similar in other communities as well, right? That often you will approach a parent who is just not receptive to your pain or your hurt because that parent, like your mother, had to hold it down too. So she's not going to be that empathic about what you're going through. So it's very generational, intergenerational.
intergenerational, yes.
So, yeah. I'm curious, can you explain what environmental racism entails and how it manifests in communities?
Yeah, so that's a big project that I do in addition to mental health. It's my other research area. And this happens in the United States. Environmental racism means that Black communities, Indigenous communities, Hispanic communities are often disproportionately selected for the placement of toxic industries and other polluting industries. So what you'll find is across the United States is that Black communities and Hispanic communities, other communities of color, they tend to have these toxic facilities, whether you're talking about landfills or dumps or petrochemical facilities surrounding their community. And those are pollutants that can cause cancer and reproductive health issues and skin rashes and mental health issues. And we have a similar issue in Canada. In Canada, we don't have a large Hispanic population, so it's typically targeting Indigenous people and Black people, and I would say Black people in Nova Scotia, who are often referred to as African Nova Scotians. So I've done work in this area since 2012. And as a health researcher, I'm really concerned about the health effects of environmental racism, because the more likely you are to be surrounded by petrochemical facilities, the more likely you are to be burdened by health issues. And the health issues I mentioned that are very serious health issues. So it's a huge project that also has mental health implications. Not enough studies are done on the mental health implications, but when I was speaking to a Black community that is dealing with a dump that has been in their community since 1943, this female activist said to me, our men are struggling, our Black men are struggling with substance dependence and drugs and different types of alcoholism, different levels of alcoholism because of that dump, because they live near a dump, because they have the stigma of Blackness and living near a dump. Others perceive them as the dump. That's what she said. People see our community members as the dump because we are Black, but we live near the dump. So therefore, we are extremely stigmatized. So they're dealing with the kind of social impacts of living near a dump, and that can cause depression. It can cause anxiety. It can cause stress. It can cause low self-esteem. And that particular community in South Shelburne, Nova Scotia, has been dealing with those issues since what, as I said, 1940, early 1940s. In the United States, if you remember the Flint, Michigan issue in 2014, when people opened up their tap water and brown water came out, that's an example of environmental racism. There's a Black African American community in Louisiana. I remember reading an article about it. It's called Cancer Alley. That's how they call the community, because that African American community was surrounded by petrochemical facilities and almost everybody had cancer. So they called it Cancer Alley, right? So this is an issue in North America broadly. And I think that, in the United States, they've done much more about it. The father of environmental justice is Dr. Robert Bullard, a Black man, an African American man who teaches at a university in Texas. So he's considered to be the father of environmental justice in terms of all the work and research he's done to address the issue.
Wow. Thank you for breaking that down, and also thank you for doing the work as well, and researching and getting folks' stories out and information out, because yeah, some of like the Cancer Alley, I've never heard of that one. So thank you so much. I know we're talking about some heavy stuff here, y'all, but we definitely want to make sure that we, give some everyday tips and some things that we can do. So, Dr. Ingrid, do you have any tips for this daily navigation of Black health and Black and mental health care?
I do, and it's kind of the stuff that you've heard before and that I kind of dismissed, but then I tried it and I said, yeah, I kind of do feel better. One thing is, people talk about a gratefulness journal, people like Oprah Winfrey and other people, right? I'm not much of a journaler. If you like to journal, that's great. I hear it's helpful, but I'm not much of somebody who likes to journal. But I noticed that when I started to, at night, just before I go to sleep, I out loud thank God, and you don't have to believe in God, but thank someone for all the things that you have, then you realize how much you have. And it makes you also compare yourself to other people who don't have it. That then results in gratefulness on your part, because I don't know, there's really no reason why I have these things and other people don't. So I feel lucky that I have it. So I might say in my bed just before I fall asleep, thank you, Lord, for the shelter. Thank you for the warmth. Thank you for the food. Thank you for my job. Thank you for the money that I have to pay for the food and to have the shelter that I have. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my family. And most importantly, thank you for my health. Thank you for allowing me to wake up every morning to see another day, because it gives me another chance. I mean, maybe it's me getting older, but the fact that I'm able to wake up and have another chance and another day makes me elated. And I think these are things that people take for granted. And it hits me right in my face when I'm walking down the street, for example, and I encounter somebody who's disabled. And I'm an able-bodied person. Everything functions as far as I know, everything functions in my body. That makes me realize how lucky I am that I'm healthy as far as I know. There are people dealing with cancer and other illnesses. And as far as I know, I'm healthy. What else do I want? Like, health is wealth. So I think when I started to thank God for the things I have that I took for granted, that are everyday things that I guess that everybody has, it started to make me realize that no, everybody actually doesn't have it. The world, if you look at like in Toronto and in Canada, the amount of people who are living on the streets now is not the Canada that I know, who are living on the streets, who are homeless. I see these images all the time, people lining up at food banks. This is kind of new for Canada. And I say to myself, I feel lucky and I feel privileged. And there's no reason that I should have food more than anybody else. So I'm grateful. And when I do that at nighttime before I go to sleep, that makes me feel happy. When I wake up in the morning and I have another chance, another day, I'm happy. Let's put this in perspective, people, right? And when I realize how healthy I am, and I eat healthy food, I'm able to afford healthy food, because you got to afford it. So those things make me happy. The other thing that makes me happy, that I love to do, is I have a space in my home with a chair that's turned backwards. It's a chair that is in the living room, but I purposely turn it backwards towards my very big windows. And at night, after I finish my work and I finish typing, I have a little like blanket on that chair, and I turn the lights off. I cozy up with this blanket. It's a chenille blanket. I love chenille. And I sit, and I might look crazy to some people. I sit and I just look out the window. And it's not really meditation. I don't know what it is. It's not traditional meditation, but I look out the window and I try to clear my mind. And that gives me so much peace, so much peace. And I'm there for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then I go to sleep.
Ooh, I like that. I love that.
I love it too. That's amazing.
I said to my sister who was staying with me briefly, I said, I know I'm going to look crazy, but I'm just staring out the window.
Oh my goodness. Dr. Ingrid, is that our takeaway? Is this, I'm feeling a takeaway. Is that the
Don't dismiss the simple things. I still think that if you are suicidal, if you have serious mental health problems, please don't think it's weak to see a psychiatrist or a therapist if you have money. You need to have money to see a therapist. But if you cannot afford those things, it is true that time alone, clearing your mind, thanking God or whoever for the little things that you have that you take for granted. And I would add this, walking. I started walking recently because I see all this messaging about walking, staves off dementia and cancer. Of course, if you're dealing with, what you want to lose weight, it helps with that. It strengthens your bones. But I didn't realize that just walking actually gave me pleasure. There's nothing in my head. I'm just walking and I'm focused on walking. And when I come back home, not only do I feel accomplished, but I feel mentally healthy as well because of all those endorphins that I'm releasing while I'm walking. The simple things, the simple things, if you don't want to see, or you can combine them with therapy, I encourage people to do. Find what's good for you. I finally found some things that are good for me, and it's doable.
I love that. I'm a big advocate of walking too. I think just
Oh,
being outside, it impacts your mental health so
oh
much. I'm trying to get
yes,
Danique on board because she's like, I don't
yes.
want to be outside smelling like outside. It's
And you
invaluable.
know what? And
Walk
you know what?
inside the
The
house.
the research says that it does impact your mental health. It's not just you and I saying that. The research is showing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Baby steps though, y'all. Because I
Yes.
look, the progression is that I'm walking. I have a mini treadmill in the house. I'm moving
Oh,
my body more. So
yeah.
that is the progression. But
Yes.
I agree. The outside piece, that will be the next step.
Yes.
I read some research somewhere that said like just 15 to 30 minutes in the sun can decrease depression and anxiety. And it also is helpful for ADHD. So that's like a tidbit on what really pushed me to do it. Because at first I was like, I don't really want to. I'm more of like a gym person, but
Yeah.
I go for the walks because of that. So yes, please do
And
it.
I'm also a gym person. I go to the gym 4 times a week. But then studies came out talking about being among trees. Do you know that
Mm-hmm.
trees have
I
benefits on
do.
your cardiovascular health, but
Hmm.
also your mental health? Being
Yep.
amongst
Yep.
greenery, green space,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw that too.
Wonderful.
Dr. Ingrid, it was so nice having you. I did not expect for the conversation to go this way. And so I think that's the best part about having these types of conversations because we talked about like the heavy things of being a Black person, having a Black body, but also the other parts of steadily searching for joy and thankfulness and gratitude. And the things that you share were free. Right? Like, I think it's so important to seek joy in the things that are free. Self-care is not about just like spending money. There are free things you
Mhm.
can do. So I really appreciate that.
And social media plays a trick on us. If we
Hmm.
can just get back to the things that we actually have and that we just take for granted that other people don't have, we have to ask ourselves, why do I have it? Well, be grateful that you have it, and don't think it's just little things. These are huge things. The most important is your health if you have that,
Hmm.
right? And the fact that you can wake up every day to have another chance. Why wouldn't that make you happy? That you get another chance?
Hmm.
Yes, I totally agree. Well, that is it for this week's episode of Black Women Healing Podcast. And thank you again, Dr. Ingrid.
Thanks for having me.